My name is Jimmy McLoughlin. I used to advise the Prime Minister on business, technology and entrepreneurship and was there between 2016 and 2019. He's exactly what you see. He really is that kind of character. There's no two images of Boris. Yes, they can be tough, but they can, record fifth term hasn't been achieved ever before. Unlikely, but I also think it's the value bet at the moment when you look at the betting markets. So the offices 10 is better than 11, but the flats above, actually number 11 is better than number 10. And historically, Prime Ministers have lived above number 11 because it's the bigger flat. Rishi Sunak is the first Prime Minister in quite some time to live above 10 Downing Street because he lived there when he was Chancellor of the Exchequer under Boris Johnson and the family didn't actually want to move to the bigger flat next door. It's so hard when you're kind of doing the job to have those moments because you're so busy and you're just trying to get so much done and you don't kind of want to be, like a fanboy or girl. However, having said that, there was a moment when we were on the trip to China when I did have one of those full circle moments. I was standing in Tiananmen Square having just got out of the PM's motorcade, but I thought I do need to spend a few seconds just sort of soaking this in a bit. Yes. No, the food is pretty bad at Downing Street. So there's a cafe, but it's tiny. It's kind of located in the basement. It's run by two wonderful women called Marjorie and Alison. But yeah, so I would normally head over to the Foreign Office for lunch. I've met quite a few of them. Met Shinzo Abe, who of course was tragically murdered last year. I met Emmanuel Macron. I'm not sure who's bigger, him or Rishi Sunak. I met Xi Jinping, Donald Trump, probably the most famous world leader of recent times. They're often very scripted. The sort of various embassies and ambassadors. There's lots of conversations that take place before. With the President of the United States, Donald Trump, it was never like that. You really didn't know what was going to be said or what was going to be done, which always made it interesting. No, I mean, I actually think Donald Trump and Boris Johnson are very different characters. Boris is a sort of, can recite all these kind of classic Greek poems and things. You're not getting that with Donald Trump. Similarities aren't that great, apart from obviously the sort of blonde tussle of hair. Yeah, I mean, regularly it's like it becomes hard because you're never going to be happy with how the news is reporting something. They aren't there to sort of write up the government press release, and nor should they be in a free society. The Times wrote about me early on, and the Daily Mail did, and then the Financial Times wrote about me quite a bit as well. I remember going away for a few days with my fiance at the time to New York, being given a copy of the Financial Times on British Airways and sort of being on the front page and stuff like that. And those in politics complaining about media, I think is a bit like sailors complaining about the sea, really. Prime Minister's plane to RAF Voyager, which Boris has since had rebadged with the Union flag on it. It's not kind of got loads of gizmos and stuff. It still doesn't have Wi-Fi, much to the annoyance of the travelling press pack. Although the broadcast journalists, those like Robert Peston, Nick Robinson, that kind of appear on your TV screens, would insist that they would have to be in business class because they needed to look fresh for the cameras. Yeah, in a heartbeat. Like if you drop me back to 2016, I mean, it was the most thrilling, exciting period of my career. Absolutely exhausting. Most special advisors only do 18 months. I did 3 years to be able to serve the Prime Minister and work on things that I really cared about: technology, entrepreneurship, thinking about how we make the UK the best place for that. I mean, you are always on, right? You have separate phones. I would try at weekends to sort of, only check it kind of 5 or 6 times a day. Guys in the press team or the operations team, wouldn't have that luxury. They really would be working all weekends. That's the trade you make. Well, yeah, I mean, I sort of think that, people get a bit kind of like carried away and over the top on it. I mean, maybe it was because I was in Downing Street, but we had even stricter and tighter controls on our phone. We weren't allowed WhatsApp. We weren't basically allowed anything that wasn't a sort of government issued approved app. So I sort of thought it's one of these things where people get very excited at sort of TikTok being banned from government phones, but in the main I wouldn't have thought there'd be that many government phones that are kind of carrying it around anyway. Yeah, well, the simple answer is not a lot, actually. So sort of between the institutions of Downing Street and the Palace, there isn't much. But obviously the relationship between the Queen or King and the Prime Minister of the day is something that's quite important. That is a meeting that takes place every Wednesday. And, it would always be one of those things of where you knew if you got the meeting before that with the PM, you weren't going to get any more time. It's the one meeting that's not going to leak. It's the one meeting where you know that no one really has an agenda. No, there's certainly nothing official in place. Even in the time that I've left, I think mental health has kind of taken a much more kind of prominent role. The thing I would say about prime ministers and world leaders of all types is that they are phenomenally resilient, and so there is that sort of world leader bond almost between them. Well, now I run a podcast called Jimmy's Jobs of the Future, where we interview entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and even the occasional politician on what we think the future of the economy looks like, and particularly what the jobs of the future in it are like.